Okay, welcome to the Remembering Ethan podcast. I'm here today with Ethan's former bandmates from the band Capital Down. And I've got Mike Hill, Mike Mercier, and Alan Chadwick with me today. And they haven't had a lot of time to talk because they haven't seen each other. And how long has it been since you guys have seen each other?
I saw Mike Hill in October.
Yeah, you guys are way better. I kind of dropped off the radar a little bit. I think I saw Mercer at an acoustic show, I don't know, 5-6 years ago.
17, 18, like that, yeah.
Wow. It's been a while. Yeah. It's good to see you guys. How are you
doing?
Good
to see you too, man.
Do this more often.
I know, we should do this.
Wow. Yeah, last night I was telling the mics, Alan, that we did Tate last night, and it was really cool to see all of you guys together, remembering Ethan and your time in that band. You know, and it's a really cool experience to do that. So thank you guys for taking the time today to talk with me.
No problem.
Right.
Thanks for having us, man.
Of course.
It's a pleasure.
Of course.
And for doing this whole thing and just this entire Ethan's extended group, keeping track of it like this. It's really nice of you.
Yeah, for sure.
I just like you guys, I loved him so much, and he did so much for me, more than he even realized or would have ever admitted. And it's the least I could do to kind of keep it alive, keep him alive a little bit. And we never all got together to celebrate his life, you know, in person. So this hopefully can kind of be a substitute for some people with that. So, you know, throughout my journey so far, talking to all these people, it was like so many interchangeable members from so many different bands that Ethan had. I mean, he was in like 40 or 50 projects or something like that. Same for you guys. You guys played in a lot of different things. Mike Mercier, I know you, for the most part, have done a solo thing, you know, and you had Leo's Invention and Capital Down. Were those pretty much your main, two main bands that you had aside from your solo acoustic career?
Yeah, when I lived in Arizona, that was it. Those were the only two bands I've ever had.
Right. Okay, so it's a little different for you. But tell me about how this Capital Down thing came to be. Do you guys remember how it all got started?
I mean, I remember how I remember it.
A lot. I pestered him for months, maybe even years, to play in a band.
I just remember you and Ethan both came out to. I was playing at Teakwood's. I was doing a gig there. You guys came out, and I kind of just like I didn't really know who you were, but I had that sense something was up. I knew there's some musicians in the crowd, you know, you can always tell. But yeah, no, you came up, and I wasn't trying to do a band thing at the time. So maybe once or twice more, you kind of just called me up, and then one day I remember I was out playing golf. I was on the golf course with a friend of mine, and I took the call, and he told me about this gig that was really high dollar, and I'm like, I'm in. It was a corporate gig for like it was stupid, but it was like $800 a guy for like 2 or 3 songs or something like that. And I was like, this is the kind of shit you call me with. Yeah.
And that was like the first and the last high-paying gig we ever had.
Yeah. Like, man, if this is gonna be like this all the time, man, let's do it all the time. Never again.
How about you, Mike Hill? How do you fit into the equation?
Yeah, man. Well, through you, Chris. I remember that you passed my information on to Alan, and I think at that time I had never really done a busy working band scenario prior to that. My thing was mostly just kind of playing in original bands, slugging it out in the local music scene as an original thing. And I was kind of looking for, my band was taking a rest at the time, and I was just wanted to play and get out and do something. And I think, Chris, you passed my name on to Chadwick, and then connected from there. And then I think I saw with Tate at the time, I think it was just Alan, you, Ethan, and then Tony. And I went to go watch you guys one night, and I walked in and you guys were playing Rage Against the Machine. I was like, yeah, I can do this. I think I could do this. And I think it just kind of went from there. I think that was literally like not too long before Mercer, you came on board. So it was kind of all happened pretty closely, I think, timing wise.
Right. And what years were you guys active? I know towards the end of Capital Down, like Ethan got busy. Mike, maybe you had some other. There was a lot of subbing and stuff like that going on. But if you had to peg down a year, what year was Capital Down active? From what year to what year?
I think about this all the time. I can never. It always seems like when I think it wasn't then, because then I'll see like Facebook memories or something. I was like, oh man, we're way earlier than I thought, you know. Or then, what? Alan, do you remember when it like ended? Was it like 2012 maybe? Or?
Yeah, that's about right. Maybe 2006 or 7-ish, right around there to 2012, something like that.
Man, long time.
That's a
Yeah.
decent run. Yeah, it's 5-6 years, something like that.
I
Yeah,
always think about it. I always think about it from what girlfriend I had at the time.
Like it's like
So I remembered it.
your girlfriends are the rings in your tree.
Yeah, I have it clocked at 06 to 2012, pretty sure.
Man, that's
So it was a
that's
pretty
longer than I
solid
thought.
6-year
Like, man.
run-ish around there.
Man, when
And-
we played our last gig at Fibber McGee's, no,
Rula
not
Bula.
Fibber's, Rula, yes.
Rula.
We used to strain all the places we played. We strain all their names together, like Cactus, Lucky, Fritter, Jack.
Yeah. Basically, it was just it was a different address. It was the same shit in every building. Same idea.
Well, yeah, that last Rula Bula gig, man, that was like, man, that was a rough one, man. Yeah, I had emotions that night. You know, just walking away from this thing that we had all put all our energy into. I think it was the first band that I mostly booked, you know, for good or bad. But wow, that was an epic for my life.
And was
Yeah.
that was that a moment for you, Alan, where you know, kind of like one of the nails in the coffin of your music career type of thing? Were you at that point? I feel like you told me at some point at the end of Capital Down, you kind of had a feeling that you were moving away from that a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Hill is responsible for me learning how to be a software developer, right? I showed up at Kokomo Joe's one night, and I think he got a new yellow Jeep. And you know, I'm still riding my old, you know, 2001 Frontier around. And you know, it was just another Kokomo Joe's gig. We've been doing it for 10 years or something, off and on with some band, and I'm just like, man, nobody's there. I'm like, oh, I gotta do something, man, because I'm breaking up with a girl and had to buy her out of a house, and so you know the bills were coming due, and I'm like, what do you do, man? Like during the day, because you don't pay your bills on this shit. Like, and he's working these long days and showing up at night and having his dinner, you know, liquid dinner with protein shake there, and it just knocks it out of the park every night. And he's like, well, I program. I'm like, all right, I guess I gotta do that. So then I started going to Reno with these big old long programming books, you know. But
yeah.
Yeah.
I remember you were getting kind of tired of it, Alan, because especially when you started working full time, and then like Friday afternoon you'd get out, and then it was like rush home, put all the gear in your truck, go set it all up, play all night, you know. And it was usually both Fridays and Saturdays at least, sometimes some Thursdays too. And I can imagine that getting, you know, just tiring. And so another thing, what Chris, you mentioned earlier that towards the end of the band, we started having substitutions, but I mean, that's putting it mildly. It was like
it was like a snowball rolling down a hill. It just wouldn't stop, man.
For me, I always had fun doing the band, and I wanted it to continue, but I knew it was like the beginning of the end when so Alan had one of his first programming projects, his software writing projects, was to make this like a database with all of the musicians in the city, and you input like all the songs you know and what instrument it was, and then he'd post a gig, an available gig, and it was like first come first serve, and then it it would make a set list from whoever was going to be playing from the, from whatever their song list was. It would put them all together and, here's the common songs you have. And that was the set list. And I remember one night, I think it was at River McGee's. I didn't know shit. And I walked in there and fucking, I didn't know anybody. I didn't know one other player there. It was like a drummer, a guitar player, and a bass player. And I'm like, oh my God, no.
I forgot about that. That was so brutal, man. That was so brutal. It was just like city in city, man.
Yeah,
that was rough.
How'd that gig go, Mike?
I think one time me and you, Mike, we were playing some casino gig and we just looked at each other and we're like, no more fucking subs, man. we were doing something and we looked over and we're like, fuck that, dude. No.
Yeah. I'm sure these guys are great players and all, but man, this is just not working. Yeah.
Yeah, I think unfortunately Ethan was, and myself probably were subbed out the most. I know that Ethan started getting busy with other projects, and I think he was kind of the first one out of the four of us that we had to start subbing out first, if that's how you guys remember it. I remember like kind of, more bass players than anything after Ethan got busy with his stuff. So yeah, and after that, it was still great playing. The project was still there. The core was still there, but it was different without Ethan. I mean, he, as everybody knows, he provides, an unmeasurable amount of things brings to a gig, whether it not just his playing, but his,
Absolutely, yeah.
all of everything that he is. And when he left, it definitely made a difference for sure.
Absolutely, yep, agreed.
Yeah,
And we had bass players too. We had like Jeff Barbary was great. Shane Martinez was great, and then that Brandon guy. He didn't really fit in with us so much, but he played great and he could sing and stuff. And I mean, we had some good bass players, but yeah, for sure, without Ethan's personality, it was limiting. And he also sang lead on a bunch of stuff too, so it definitely. I mean, anytime you have a core band like that, when you start subbing, it's gonna suffer. But for sure, it was way different without the band was never gonna be the same without him. Yeah.
Do you guys remember? I think there's a lot of freaking amazing gigs, but there was one particular wedding gig in Tucson that we went to, and it was a really nice resort. It was beautiful. They put us up in nice rooms, and we just slayed the living crap out of that gig. And at the end of the night, we encored like 10 songs we barely ever played. And it was just, I felt like that was like one of our peak moments with all the guys. I
remember the gig, but I'm also confusing it with a Flagstaff wedding one. There was a Flagstaff wedding one that we did too, and I have them both simultaneously.
Yeah, they could go in any direction. That was the one I remember that we were teasing we were jamming on the mic a little bit. Mercer here, Chris, all of our bands, we talked about changing the lyrics and stuff, but Mercer is the king of lyric substitution under every circumstance. And him and Ethan, it got to the point where we couldn't play the original version if we tried to. We don't remember.
No, I always remember. I mean, I appreciate that, but I remember it was like a competition between me and Ethan almost. It was always just like one upping the other one, always. So it came a lot from him too. There was another one. I don't even know the name of the town. It was like out in. I can't remember where it was. It was like it was at this resort by a pool.
And Prim, Nevada, outside of Vegas.
No. This is a wedding or a birthday party. Maybe it was a birthday party. And it was in Arizona somewhere, like up in kind of like I don't even know on the way to what, like I guess on the way to like Kingman or something. It wasn't.
Yeah, we did one in Wickenburg. We did a wedding in Wickenburg.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was a wild one too. Yeah.
I remember you said
the funny one was something about whoever the guest of honor was. It was her birthday or a wedding or whatever it was. And basically that she was a whore. That's how
Oh man. Oh, what was
and
that? What was
the
that?
dad was the only one her dad was the only one whose ears perked up, like, what was that now?
Yeah,
I was
everybody
like,
else. I was
looking at the
mortified.
floor like,
I remember
oh,
that
no.
I was waiting for us to for everybody to rush the stage and beat us up. And like nothing really happened. Remember what was the name of that place? Scottsdale Quarter. I think the last gig we showed up, there's chains in the doors or something. We didn't get a last check or something.
Crime bar.
Crime bar. We got out of control there. Candace had some cell phone footage of me just laying upside down, jamming out there.
It would get so ugly, and they preferred it. But they even the bar management people were like, when we showed up, they're like, gonna be like last time, right? I'm like, I guess so.
We're gonna get sloppy.
Yeah. In fact, that wedding in Flagstaff, they had showed up there at Climb Bar and kept on lining up shots of some kind of Jameson or something, kind of whiskey. And that was they told us after that was the audition to play their wedding was, could we play shit face? And
you got the right band for that, ladies and gentlemen. You better open up that liquor bar, because I think there was Reno, Nevada. God, that's a whole book in itself. There was a Reno, Nevada gig where we get $1 drinks, like whatever it is, a shot, whatever it is, $1, right? And we go to pay our bill at the end of the night at Brew Brothers there, $200. So between the band and company, which wasn't more than like 3 or 4 other people, that's how much damage we did. I mean, they
always, yeah. It was like that. We were. That was our band. That was kind of our thing.
It was fun though, man. I had the best time of my life.
Crazy.
I don't know a shit ton of people around here, at least to talk about this kind of stuff with. So I just go walk through the woods and talk to myself about it. And I remember those cats around me all the time. Yeah.
Well, to piggyback on that, when I would go see, and we kind of talked about this last night, Alan, when I would go see Tate, you guys, Ethan was part of changing up the lyrics a little bit and having a little bit of fun with it. And Todd would just kind of stick to the lyrics, but it was still fun. You guys still had jokes. It was still funny. Ethan was still there calling people out and, doing his thing, orchestrating the circus kind of thing. But I remember when you guys finally got together and gelled and I went to go see you the first time, I remember thinking, these guys could book themselves as a comedy act as well, and it seemed like, I think what made it work is that you were cracking each other up so much, they didn't even really care if the audience was in on it or not. That it seemed like you guys were having so much fun that it was infectious, and so the audience would have fun as well. How did Ethan fit into that dynamic with you guys there? I mean, we already know from all the podcasts that he had, a huge personality and humor and stuff like that. But do you guys remember, the type of humor that you would share, or some of the things that would crack you up on the stage?
That we can share.
That you can talk about.
I mean, he just, for one thing, and I remember I listened to Alan's solo interview, the solo record, his Ace Frehley record interview before, and Alan had touched on the fact that even when you showed up, even if you weren't in the mood, a lot of times I would show up and I had already played a happy hour gig or whatever, and I just was like, nah, whatever, I'm tired or whatever, and just Ethan would be like, suck it up, man, we're playing music, it's party time, let's go. And he get you right back into it. He just had that infectious kind of boost for everybody, no matter whatever's going on in your day, you're gonna have fun tonight. We always did. And actually, about this band too, that was another thing. It was always, to me, and I think to everybody, it was like hanging out with our buddies. It's like, oh, cool, we're playing tonight. That means we're gonna get to hang out with our bros tonight, like that. So, but yeah, Ethan was always from the get-go when he walked in. It was always like, I gotta wait till I tell you about this story about what happened last night or what happened earlier today or whatever like that. And that was always a good springboard for the night.
It would. You'd get to a gig, you'd be all burnt out, beat up for whatever, just fourth gig of the week maybe, and he'd be right there, just like, let's do it, let's go, positive attitude, ready to lay it all out.
Sure.
Yeah, I would come from like my work, my shitty job, and so my head's just in a completely different place, and you show up to the gig and you see Ethan and he like immediately puts you into this place where like you guys said, like it's party time, it's go time, let's do this. He had like that gift of just like get your mind right and let's go, Definitely.
Yeah.
And it kind of like the same thing I was asking last night with Tate. It was like I would go, Randy and I, we worked a lot and we were always busy, but our bread and butter were the happy hours, so by 7-ish, 8, we were done. And we would go see Capital Down, Tate, all the stuff that you guys were, but we would go watch other bands too around town. And that's not something you guys were doing because you were even busier than what we were doing, especially Ethan, doing 3-4 gigs a day for years and years and years. But you were very unique and Randy and I would talk about it all the time. Like, man, any band Ethan's involved with, it's just so fun to watch these bands, and so in your mind, compared to the small amount of music that you saw in the scene that you may have happened to catch or other musicians that you knew, what do you think it was that set Capital Down apart from all of the other cover bands, I guess, that were going on in the scene there? Because you would draw a huge crowd. I mean, you guys were super popular. I'd hear about you on the radio, see the newspaper, where they were always advertising when you were performing. So what do you think set you guys apart from the other bands in the scene at the time?
I want somebody else to take this one first.
I mean, I kind of always saw us as the bastard child of the local working band scene. It's like you had like the serious bands, and then you had us, and it was like I don't know if that's kind of how I saw it. We pretty much just played on stage however we wanted to. Even when we got hired for weddings and stuff, even when we got hired for weddings, we still brought what we did to the wedding. You hire us, you're going to get what you get. That's kind of how I see it. I don't know how you guys see it or remember it.
That's a great way to put it. That's exactly it.
Yeah, I think we didn't really take ourselves so seriously at all, and one of the things that really helped the band just kind of sail through was that nobody took it too seriously. Nobody was there wasn't really a leader of the band, you know what I mean? Like I would book stuff and Alan would book stuff mostly, and whatever booked first was fine, and nobody like got mad because whatever stupid shit band guys get mad at each other about. Like it just was never a thing. If people were late or something like that, we weren't. Nobody usually was. We were professional enough to keep it professional. But like there was no real ego in the band, really.
It was one of the most low tension situations I've ever been on. Like we never had to sit each other down and be like, we don't think you like Prince as much as the rest of us like Prince. You know what I mean? That weird conversation where the musicians are like, I don't think we're aligned on what we like. It was just, we do it, we know what it's about, and it was equally for us as it was to make a living. And I think once I did start working, it definitely released some of that tension of like, oh, I need a music career. So we just milked it for everything it was worth, and it was pretty damn fun.
And I think it works for the audience because not that other bands were stuffy or anything like that, but we really didn't give a shit.
There's something to be said for that, like we've all just been on stage for so many years at that point, and we did our stuff too. It's not like we fell apart very often. Most of the time we were just in the pocket, jamming, delivering the goods on a regular basis.
Yeah, everybody was solid enough, like you said. We've been doing it for a long enough time, so we could pull it off. Yeah.
That's a good answer. Yeah, now that I think back to it, that was one of the key defining, scenarios for you guys. Other bands that we would see, they would have their very organized set list, or they would stick to the tunes, maybe a little bit of banter between the songs. But now when I think back, even with Tate or a lot of projects that Ethan was in, but especially you, I mean, you guys were like super, dude. I always crack up when I'd watch you. But now, hindsight being 2020 and all that, when I think back to it, it was just you guys were just doing your own thing, and it didn't really matter. Like I said earlier, if the audience was with you or not, and that was unique because most people that be performing in the bands, like they care, like how are we portrayed? Do we sound good? Worried about if people like us or not. Are they going to come back and watch us? And
Well,
then,
we did care about that stuff too. We wanted to sound good, obviously.
right.
But like, for instance, when you were just talking, it reminded me that like let's say, if I'm singing and I just hit a clunk or whatever, just a bad note, or try to do a high note and cracks or whatever. And, it was never ever like that. It was always like I'd look over to either side, to Alan or to Ethan, and they'd just be crying, fucking laughing because it was so. They knew it was embarrassing for me anyway. They didn't need to give me any more shit. They just thought it was funny that I would embarrass myself in front of everybody.
Well,
Yeah, we've all done that.
that might be the answer then, man. I think that your nonchalant sort of approach to it translated, and probably why you guys were successful for so long, and it lasted so long. And I know there were just gig upon gig upon, what would you say, maybe hundreds of gigs? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, easy.
Okay. So, and I never get a definitive answer on this, so never ask someone, because I'm curious, because I performed with Ethan just a handful of times. So I have in my mind what was my favorite gig, which gig wasn't my favorite, et cetera, jokes that he would say on stage. But I realize it's all kind of a blur because it was so many years of him joking and, that kind of stuff. But are there any clear memories or recollections of a particular gig? I mean, you kind of mentioned earlier that wedding that you played, that was fun. And then on the flip side of it, gigs that were kind of shitty or that went bad for you. Do you remember anything like that? Either one of those?
I mean, there were always highs and lows. I think the good ones were our regular, I want to say Skeptical Chemist was a fun one.
Mm-hmm.
We would do good there. The Irish bars, with Fibber McGee's on Dobson there. That was a fun one. But we had a couple of New Year's there. Oh, we had some epic New Year's. Boy, did we have some epic New Year's. Like we did 2 New Year's there. And it got to the point where I was putting up a flyer that wasn't even us anymore. It was just like a ABBA cover band. I would just put our name on it and be like, New Year's Eve.
No, it was silly. And, the owners of those places and the management and the staff, they were all in on it too. And they just, it was so, effortless, and people like to go there and go watch our band play. I just got reminded of a time that, of a train wreck though. It was when we were playing in Reno, and but Mike, unfortunately you weren't there. Tony King was playing with us that time. Mm-hmm. And Vinnie Paul was downstairs at the crap table gambling at the casino downstairs from the bar.
Right. Yeah.
And somebody went down to go get him. And just, hey, we're playing upstairs, blah, blah, blah. And like 5 minutes later, he came in, and it was the very first night that we were playing. It was a Monday night. And we hadn't had a sound check at all. There was no sound check at all. And here he is. And I think, Alan, hey, what do you want to hear? He's like, I don't know, like Stone Temple Pilots. And Alan just goes, sex type thing. And we had never played that song. I still, that was the only time in my entire life I've ever sang that song. And Tony just started it, and we didn't know it.
That is exactly something we do, right? Like
it was a complete fucking train wreck.
Let's
and
try
Ethan, I remember looking at Ethan to my right, and he was just like literally tears coming down his face because it was just so fucking bad. And we're playing in front of our, one of our heroes and stuff, this famous guy. He's like, oh, what a nightmare. And then at the end of it, Tony King is like, I did my part right. He was the only one. He was the only one who nailed it. We were all over the place. Didn't know when that changes came. It was a nightmare. And yeah.
Oh man, yeah, that's a good one.
And did Vinny say anything to you guys, or you just kind of walk away?
What I remember was he just like we waited till the end of the song. He's like, "Good one, guys, see ya," and he just walked out.
Yeah, gotta go gamble. I can't remember if that was before we sponsored him with my amp company or not.
No, that was his brother.
Yeah, so that poor dude was at a trade show right after his brother died.
Yeah.
And my amp company was playing on a loop a video of Dimebag, and he was signing autographs. And you know, in hindsight, it was just terrible. I didn't plan it or think of it, but he approached us and he's like, "Dude, stop playing that video in the background. I mean, just, you know, he's hearing his brother's voice in a video in the background while he's signing autographs," and it was just kind of.
Oh, yeah.
But I can't remember if that was before or after. His brother. It was after. It had to be years after.
When we saw, well, I mean, yeah, when we saw Vinny Dimebag had already passed away or whatever, so.
Yeah. Okay.
He was in that Hell Yeah band. They were playing. Hell Yeah was playing the next night or something.
In Reno. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, the Reno stories are going
Yeah,
on.
hilarious. They're fucking great. They're hilarious.
I remember it was before the Hangover movie came out, but Mercer had we basically replayed the Hangover movie where in the morning we got together, we did breakfast or something, and we're like, "So what'd you end up doing last night?" And the Mercer would be like, "Well, I don't know yet, but this is what I remember, and this is what happened." And then throughout the day, he would talk to people. We'd meet up with people we were with last night. He would talk to his girlfriend at the time. And throughout the day, the story just kind of slowly pieced together. And I don't know if you want to tell the whole
watching
thing,
a Quentin Tarantino movie and like, okay, at 4 a.m, I had a conversation with this person, but then at 8, this is happening over here. It's all get the pieces together like the strings up on the board thing.
The way I remember it was like he couldn't figure out why his jacket was all sticky on the elbows. And then finally, at the end of the day, it was like, "Oh yeah, I slipped on some freshly waxed floor in some casino, and I was army crawling through the
I was trying to go to the bathroom, and they just waxed the floors. It was like an inch deep of wax, and I was splashing around in it like
what I would give for that security feed, right? If we could just go and buy that would be the best thing ever.
I always thought that, you know, I did go do a Reno trip, and when we would go out of town, that it's like Ethan became larger to me. Like he like his stature grew larger, you know, because he has this stature in town that he plays gigs and everybody knows. And then when we would go travel, it's like Ethan would just be like, not like lose control, but he would just be like more Ethan, you know, and it was just like the stories that came from that and the experiences from those trips. It's like Ethan just got bigger, you know, like he just became more of himself. And on stage, off stage, when we would, you know, socialize afterwards or whatever, it's like he just did his thing, but he did it even more. That's what I remember about a lot of those going out of town stuff.
There was a Reno music scene, and a lot of bands would show up for the traveling band and you know, hang out, drink, support us, and we'd get them on stage and stuff. But of course, you know, Ethan was like best friends with everybody in that scene immediately because he's, you know, so gregarious and you know, knows everybody. Could get a gig in any town he walks into.
Yeah.
What was the guy? There was a guy for that band. He's a bass player. You know, Ethan played left-handed, but with a right-handed stringing upside down, and the other guy was a right-handed guy. So they would use the same bass and like pass it back and forth. So one guy would be wearing it, and he would like flip it upside down, and then Ethan would play, and then he'd flip it back.
Let's pony back on that. You know, when now that we're talking about Capital Down and your time with Ethan in that band, stuff like that, what what memories or images come back to you when you think back to the time that you spent with them in Capitol Down? Can you think back?
Hey, remember the aircraft carrier gig that we didn't get?
You know what's funny, Alan? I wanted to tell the story, but it doesn't really involve Ethan though. But I for some reason when Chris said that we were gonna do this thing, the one story that popped into my mind had something to do with that. And I might as well just tell it. So when we go to Reno, there's two guys in each room, and most of the time it was me and Alan Chadwick rooming together. And this particular time, this guy, the same guy, we don't have to mention his name, but he was hiring you guys to be his backing band for some original gig that he was doing. And you guys had done some stuff before and had trouble getting paid or something like that. So anyway, so I was in the room and you were on the phone with the guy. Alan was on the phone with the guy, and I just remember like just overhearing the conversation, but only from Alan's end. But I could still tell what was going on the other end. So this other guy is like, "Oh man, it's gonna be great. Red Bull's gonna be there. There's gonna be cameras. It's gonna be on. It's gonna be televised." All stuff. And Alan's like, kind of slowly, softly beating around the bush about how much money he was gonna get paid. And he's just like, "Oh, so you know, what's the deal?" And the guy's like, you know, again, Red Bull," and he just kept on saying what a great opportunity it was going to be. But of course, only for him. It's not going to be a great opportunity for his backing band, you know. And so it goes around and around and around, and each time it goes around, Alan's getting more to the point. So it went from you know, yeah, so what's the deal? So each guy gets how much or whatever, and what's the cut, and how's that all work and stuff. And the guy wouldn't answer them. And finally, Alan just loses it, and he sounded like Chris Tucker talking to Jackie Chan. He's like, "How much Alan Tucker getting paid?"
Show me the money. But Ethan used to like tear that guy up. Like whenever he had a chance, he would start like singing his song, you know.
You start, yeah, because well, I never even heard that guy's songs, but I feel like I knew him because Ethan would like sing the riffs to me so often that I would sing them back, and like if I ever heard the song, like, wait a minute, I know this one. Yeah, that was a good one.
So we would show up with instruments, like little travel instruments. We'd set up our regular thing and then somehow play some extra songs or learn some extra songs. You know, use some of the time we weren't gigging to add a couple of songs to the list, and we'd get together. Ethan had that little travel guitar we'd bring.
Yeah. One of the other, well, we had gone to Alaska with Ethan one time. We went twice, but Ethan only had gone one time. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I wish, Mike, I wish you would have been able to do that, but it was like a 3-week thing. Like who can take 3 weeks off? That's like the entire vacation package for any freaking normal office job. You know what I mean?
I tell you what, I'd go now. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But
I would too. I thought about hitting them up, see if they're doing any acoustic stuff over there.
You were there in spirit, that's for sure, man. We weren't any different there, except for we would get there. 2007 and 2009 are the dates I remember that we went, and we would, on the back of the front PA speaker, there'd be a set list fucking knocked down, and you just fucking add a fucking Sharpie to that fucking set list. And I don't know what it was, 70 fucking sets.
Oh yeah.
And every time you got off, you're like, Jesus. There. One time the power went out.
4 hours a night, hard partying, hard rocking, hard partying afterwards, because we have the houses right across the street. So like, you know, people from the bar they all knew, you know, because for them it's every weekend they go party with the band after, and so like it or not, there's a party at both those houses.
I think Ethan only went in 07, and we brought Shane in 09.
Yeah.
Shane and Tony. I remember, I don't know if, it had to be 07 that Mercer and Ethan would, if they didn't want to start out doing Jägermeisters all night and they wanted to like back it off a little bit, we would play a trick, and we'd put like warm Coke in a shot glass, and they'd put a couple of them. They were blocker shots. They'd put a couple of them on stage to let people know, hey, don't drop up any shots. I got one. I just haven't done it yet. You know, like they were like, hey, the queue's full. It's cool. We got shots. It's all good. Don't got to put any up here. And then I think one night, Mercer was like, fuck it, it's time to drink. So he drank the warm Coke so it would like clear the deck.
Get rid of those fake shots. We can get some real ones up on stage.
We're ready now. You guys can start buying shots.
We're ready now. It's like a second set. We're ready now.
Yeah. There's so many of those good ones, man. Those travel gigs are always, you know, not many bands get through those. That was always a treat.
Oh, we always give a certain booking agent a hard time. Like without fail, at least once or twice a night, we call this guy out like, hey, how much is that shot? You giving 10% of that away to somebody? Oh, it's it.
Yeah, that guy.
I don't know,
Yeah.
Mike, did we plumber butt you? I was bragging about that with Tate, that me and Ethan would just pull our pants down and ass crack for a whole song.
Yes.
Did you
I
benefit
got
from that
plumber
too?
butt from both of you
Alright.
for sure. Ethan was really good on making sure not just the people were being entertained out front, but the people in back were being entertained just as much.
Everybody, it's a
And that was
360
usually
degree
just
show.
that was usually
Yeah,
mostly
there were
just
two
me.
shows going on that night.
He was really good at keeping everybody entertained, including us on stage and myself, even though I was behind him most of the time.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Good
Yeah, your
times for
kid.
sure, man.
I remember your kit was so cool. Like it was a little bit more flat at that time. I think that's all popular now, but that thing looked so cool. And you were just like half of you was just above the drum set, you know. So it was like you were real.
Yeah.
You weren't hidden behind a whole, you know, Tom Sawyer setup and shit.
Yeah, it was great. And it was also like, I mean, playing with Ethan, you know, we obviously felt like we could make it pretty much through any song, even if we didn't know it. If he knew it, we could get through it for the most part, you know. Even if he had to sing it or whatnot, we could always get through it. I think there was numerous times where he would be like, just follow me, you know, and we kind of just go with it fearlessly, go with it without worrying about, oh, we don't really know the song, but Ethan knows it, so we'll just follow him, that kind of thing.
And also, he has such a like a, you know, that whole positive vibe thing where like even with the train wreck, it didn't matter. You know, it never,
Yeah.
when you, because I did a lot of duo gigs with Ethan too.
Mhm.
And well, he'd always say, follow me, but he plays guitar like he plays bass, like upside down. And like, I can't follow that, you know, a
Mhm.
D chord does not look like a D chord when Ethan's playing it. And it would be a mess, but we just kind of laughed it off and it didn't matter, you know, just like you said earlier, Mike, we were having a good time, so the crowd was having a good time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, Ethan always attracted a lot of people to him, whether it was positive or negative attractions. You know, like he had some people, like a couple of situations where he'd have to deal with, I guess, for lack of a better word, a stalker.
Yeah, he's up.
Oh, yeah.
And did
That
that stuff ever spill into Capital Down? I mean, do you have any crazy fan stories?
All the time. I mean, when I first got into Capital, I'll let Alan tell it, or Mike if he remembers too. But it had already been a thing with this. He had this girl that was like, I mean, certifiably should have been locked up, crazy. And he kind of, you know, he didn't really know how to say no. You know, he didn't really know how to set up boundaries. And so, I mean, he got really, really invasive and troublesome and kind of frightening for him.
Yeah, I remember he had he wasn't able to change his phone number. You know, like this person would keep calling him or trying to get in touch with them, and he wasn't able to change his number because everybody had his number, and that's how he got work. Because you know, all these musicians and all these bands had his number, and if he changed his number, he would lose connection with a lot of people calling him to get gigs.
Right.
You know, and I always thought.
Sorry. I was just gonna say also, I remember he tried to block her number multiple times, and he would block her number, and she would literally get a different phone number just so she could call him again.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was, I remember many times he was super frustrated, like, you know, he had to deal with this situation. But like Mercer said, I mean, he was in the beginning, he's just so nice and genuine to everybody, that, you know, some people kind of, you know, who are prepared to deal with that, you know, that was one of the things that he had to deal with, is because he's like that, some people were just, you know, go gaga over him. And that situation didn't turn out that great for him. But yeah, it was many like skeletons in the closet that he had in that sense, where he was dealing with personally, but he never made you feel like, he never came out and was like, God, my life sucks, I'm doing this, you know. He would always be like telling you the stuff he's dealing with. He's had this smile on his face, like, you know, he was always
Like, how
positive
crazy is
about it.
this? Yeah.
Yeah, he was just like positive about it, like, this is crazy, right? Yeah. It's like, but he was never down, you know. You never saw him down about it. He just dealt with it.
And
For
you know,
sure.
after years of playing in bars and stuff, we've all experienced, you know, the drunk person who would come up and harass the band or demand to hear a particular song. Unruly fans, I guess you could categorize them. How did you guys deal with that with that aspect of it when you were performing? I mean, would you?
I mean, the same way we've been saying the whole time. We were impervious to that kind of shit when, because we were, you know, we would just make fun of them. We just completely make fun of them and you know, try to embarrass them. And
You remember
sarcasm, like
do you remember any
sarcasm.
specific situations?
Well, we were playing a pool party, Mike, and some really innocent kid. I mean, it was actually one of the better situations where they were calm and they weren't all over you in your face and stuff, or demanding you play something or do something. And I don't know, I was just so sarcastic about it. And I would just say things like, "Oh, really? You play guitar? Really? Is that what you're talking about? Oh, you were in a band? Oh, wait, your band broke up? Really? That never happens. Like, what is?"
I remember, maybe this is even the same time, but it was at that hotel pool. It was like a wave pool thing, like on, I don't know, July 4th or something like that. It was really hot out in the morning. We were playing a morning gig, and everybody's kind of hungover. And this guy came up and started talking to all of us, but then like the rest of us kind of like peeled off slowly and left Alan Chadwick to deal with it.
Yeah. We had a fun one going there. We'd call some of the girls attention minors, you know, because it would just be flash in the pants. It would just be like, oh, look at me, you know, talking to the band and stuff. And, you know, we would identify them and be like, you know, X-Day.
Yeah.
So
there was one, did we get the notes? That was us at Skeptical Chemist. I have a picture somewhere of somebody writing drunk notes on a napkin, making requests. And one note would just say, "You guys suck." Next note would be like, "Oh, you're awesome. Can you play Leonard Skinner?" You know, you spell it out crazy. The next one would be like, "Hall and Oates," you know, or something. It was just the most random stuff. Like it's the first live band he ever saw in his life, and he'd had too many to drink. And so he was just writing us little secret notes. I think I lined them all up and took a picture of them at some point.
One thing you reminded me of, I still use it now. It's one that Ethan kind of gifted me. Was it's annoying when people put, like, you know, girls will put their purses and stuff on the stage. They'll think it's their own, or their coats or whatever, their drinks. They start piling shit on the stage. And once one person does it and they see it's okay, they all. So one night, somebody put their purse there, and Ethan just bent down and grabbed it and started going through it and saying like, "Oh,
on stage, right? On stage."
Oh, you got some herpes medication in here too. What's that all about? And to this day, I still use that one. So yeah.
Let's see what you got here.
That's hilarious. Oh man. So would you say Ethan was the first one that started subbing out the first one that started like getting involved in other projects because he said yes to so many things? Oh,
I don't know if it was
No.
Ethan or I may have put some hooks in there early to just
hang
say,
on a
hey, let's
second,
spin this
guys.
down a little
Keep
bit.
talking about it. Be right back.
I mean, I know it was like mutual. I know that he would have, if it was like full steam ahead, we probably just could have kept going. But I think I was getting burnt out, working. I don't know how Mike Hill, I don't know how you keep doing it, like gigging at night, working in the day, man. That 2012 to 14 when we did that country band, I don't even know. I don't even remember. I just remember I never slept.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think we started subbing the bass quite often, and then we all just kind of. Well, I mean, I wrote an app to just all-purpose cover band, like all hands alert. There's a gig opportunity, like email all the freaking players, and here's the set list checked.
Yeah.
But Mike, I mean, really, when the band started, it was kind of like we'd go between you and Tony King playing drums too. So I mean, I guess that kind of counts as subbing out. But
Yeah. Tony and I definitely shared gigs with the band. But I do remember like there was a point to which I know, Alan, you started working, and I think that the gigging, I mean, there was a couple years there where we were like full steam. It was like every weekend, okay, we're playing, 2 nights for sure, Friday, Saturday night, and maybe there was a Thursday night in there. And then I know that we kind of slowed down with the gigging just because it was getting to be a lot. And I think Ethan kind of recognized that, and he kind of put the feelers out because he's a hustler. He goes out and he works. I mean, he's like you, Mercer, you guys work a lot. And he just started putting the feelers out and just saying, okay.
Eastern Ash asked him to be like a full-time member because their bass player moved away or something, and I think he came to all of us and kind of asked, or maybe one at a time, and asked, like he said, look, if you guys want to keep doing this full time, I'll stay and do it. This is great, but if it's not going to be all the time, I'm going to go and do this thing. And I think we all gave him the blessing at that time. I think the app had already been created at that time, so. I think it's probably good that maybe you do set yourself up with something else right now.
Yeah, that sounds about right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That answers my question because I was always kind of curious. What could it was so effortless when you guys were playing together, and you did have such a good time. You were so fun to watch. I always wondered what it was that pulled Ethan in other directions. Why he didn't keep rolling with this since you guys were having so much fun. But Mike, I think you answered it when you talked about. I didn't realize that Easton Ash had approached him playing his band, and then Alan, you kind of started working, so maybe Ethan was like thinking that he could get involved in another project where he could get more gigs or something like that, I suppose.
Yep, that sounds about right. I remember that we were having sushi before Rulabula that night, and everybody was just on to new things.
Mm-hmm. Right. Very cool, man.
I mean, 6 years is a pretty long time for even a
that's true.
For any band to stick together, let alone a cover band with its original core members and stuff. So I think we had a pretty good run.
Mm-hmm.
And I attribute that to the same thing. Like we just didn't take ourselves too seriously. It was fun. It was fun the entire time, even when it get tiring.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. I remember my first original band. We'd pay $50 a member to be part of the SureGuard storage rehearsal, in the summertime, in the dead of summer, banging it out. And I remember I did that band for a year before the Chadwicks kind of took over. And then that lasted for forever too. Yeah, we had a good time, man. Capital Down was like, that was a party band.
Do any of you have any videos from that time? I mean, I know it's more rare for us from back then to have videos because phones weren't a thing and that kind of stuff. But do any of you have any of that maybe you could share with me that I could post, or not really?
I got a couple from Prime Bar. I have the Alaska recordings. I have a surprisingly large amount of full sets recorded from Alaska.
Really?
Because they had that really nice soundboard. Oh, everything, all of its glory. I'm sure some of the later it was off the board. There's there's something or pictures or something we could definitely share. I'll look through my files and see what I got.
See what you have.
Tony found an original Ethan song. Looking forward to hearing that. I lost a hard drive. I've had tons of Pro Tools sessions with all the musicians in town, and man, I like formatted a drive one time that I didn't know was plugged in, and that was disappointing. But I still have it. Like if I ever want to forensically put the bytes back together, but that was a sad moment when I lost all those songs.
Yeah, and Capital Down, we were at that weird, from 06 to 2012 was that weird period before social media really took off. Like 06, there wasn't really any social media going on, I mean, Facebook was not really doing anything. There was some MySpace. And then in those 6 years, the growth of social media kind of came to be to what we know it now. So by the time 2012, so we kind of missed out on a lot of like friends coming to shows and like popping open their phone like you see now. You see videos from bands.
iPhones from the beginning then either.
Yeah.
That's right. Mike Mercer, you got the first iPhone in Alaska. We sat around you like it was the first television in the world. We just got on your shoulder like, what's that do? What's that do?
Yeah, I remember that too. I remember standing in line, and I paid because I got it the very first day it came out, and I forget how much it cost, like $700, and then like 2 weeks later, like, all right, we're gonna lower the price down, like, $300.
So I still have our last version of the website. I just put it in the chat. Tafoya, that's got a ton of our videos, our demo music, and a ton of images from all over, including our first photo shoot in Reno. We were all sitting around.
Oh wow! Okay.
my emo years, yeah.
Okay, I just saved the website so that I can check it out later. Thanks for sending it.
Wow.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, I remember Alan, you and I both were into making flyers and into making little I guess web flyers or whatever, little ads to send out to people and stuff like that. I've never done that since.
Not for yourself. I know Hill gave you a really good website and got that going, but it's fun to promote your band, just put the flyers up, make a new one every week or whatever. That was fun.
Yeah, I definitely think though we missed that point to where people would just shoot videos of bands and just post it on Facebook. That kind of happened towards the tail end of Capital Down, so we missed opportunities. Well, I mean, we didn't miss anything, but it's just that was before all that happens is what we see on social media now, which is so normal. See your friends' bands being filmed, and so documentation wise, as far as video goes, I don't think we have a whole lot anyway.
You know who filmed one is Daffire. You can find it on YouTube. There's a really good version of us, and it was the one time we hired a light dude for a small show. There was Easton Ash's light guy would pick up a couple bucks and take some lights to it, and so there's this YouTube video up of us playing Good Times, Bad Times. It was us in our heyday, just nailing it, just killing it.
Yeah.
Wow.
That would have been when the Alaskan guys came down because they were scouting new bands, and we wanted to make a good impression on them, so we got the light guy. Yeah. Sal, and I don't know, one of the other guys came down.
They saw us at Cactus Jacks and something.
Well, I just got that YouTube link you sent too, Alan. I'll post that to the Facebook page so people can check that out.
That's awesome, man. I'm gonna check that out.
Yeah. Well, guys,
that was a fun song.
I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me today about Ethan and your time in Capital Down. And before we get close to saying our goodbyes or anything, I mean, are there any last minute thoughts or words that you want to share, or any kind of things that you want to talk about your time with Ethan and Capital Down? Or do you feel like you covered most of what you were thinking when you came into this? Is there any leftover stuff in your brain?
I got one more. When we were going to that Prim, Nevada gig, Alan, I think Mike, you weren't there either. Mike Detto was playing drums.
Blue Bayou.
We were on the drive. We
Yet
were on the
another
drive
drummer.
on the way there, and I forget exactly how it happened, but like a motorhome, like a Winnebago, like cut you off. Like you and Detto were in the truck together, and me and Ethan were in the other one. And without any communication whatsoever, everybody acted exactly perfect so that we blocked that guy in so he couldn't move. Like, no communication. Like we sped up and then you knew exactly what we were doing and we like totally boxed the guy in and then slowed down so he couldn't go anywhere.
We were nothing short of a gang, you know, a musical gang. And then when you got there, it was that Blue Bayou song or whatever you guys were laughing about.
I feel like that story never really comes off as funny as it really was, you know, like the actual memory of it.
That's the thing is like, it's a I don't know, a custom version of Spinal Tap, you know, like Capital Down was Spinal Tap and we knew it at the same time. And we would play it to the hilt.
I know, you know what, something I forgot to ask before, because I feel like one of you or someone has told me before where you got the name Capital Down from, but how'd you guys land on that for your band name?
I've always wondered that too, actually. This is going to be good information for me.
Man, I probably did it. You know, band names is a ceremony for every band. That's a rite of passage where everybody talks about things and does stuff, and then you just end up with a name. It's not like anybody had a meeting and called it good. I probably brought that one in, Capital Down. I don't know if it was a video game or capitalism down, but then like because I was kind of political, but like I'm not doing any politics in the band, so it doesn't really matter. So I don't know. It worked, but could have been anything.
It was a good sounding name. I always like the name.
Yeah.
Maybe it rolls off the tongue.
A movie came out not too long after you guys stopped performing together called Capital Down, and I remember thinking, oh man, that's cool, you know, reminded me. No.
I wonder if they used the Alan had made that when we left Reno that time, you made I forget what it was. It was like some Seth Rogen carrying out Dave Franco, and there's like a big explosion in the background. Alan, remember that?
Yeah, we made a meme where like a guy's like carrying another guy out of the fire, out of the burning torch of a fire, and that's every time we went home from Reno, we were just dragging so much butt. Like we just get ourselves to the plane, you know, just
light a match and throw it behind you and just have the other place just explode.
Yeah, take no prisoners, man. Oh man, well, I think, you know, for me with Ethan, it's just a constant feeling like he's a little bit still with me. Like you can never take the time away that we spent together. You know, I love him like a brother. He was always such a smart dude, and it wasn't like he just talked about music. Like he was up on politics. He always knew some philosopher. He had some, you know, he read. You know, he knew more music than I ever even studied. You know, he could play jazz and everything. He was just the depth of a human being that it was just always fun to be around in any situation.
Very true.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's hard to like quantify the effect that he had on you and in your band, and then not just if you got a chance to play with him, but also just being in the scene and seeing him out. Obviously, Chris, your podcast has done amazing things for making sure that people remember how amazing he was, and you know, and it's all true. I think that it's really hard for me to even quantify these days, living here in Phoenix, Tempe, Scottsdale, knowing that he's not out there gigging. You know, because he was always gigging. And it's even now, a couple years later, it's just like you think back and you're like, man, you know, he's not out there doing his thing anymore. That's really hard to think about, because you just always assume, even as the band ended, the years after, you knew that he was out there playing somewhere. And so that kind of it's just something that I think about every now and then, because I play out and I just knowing that he's not doing it anymore is kind of one thing that crosses my mind. And your podcast, Chris, has been really, really awesome in helping the rest of us kind of remember and not forget how the impact that he made on a lot of people. So
Right on, man. Thanks for your words, dude. Appreciate it.
yeah.
For me, like not that I forget that he's gone, but it's still just like whenever I something that's funny or something that's a good song or some good story to tell or anything like that, I'm like, oh, I gotta tell Ethan this, and like it's a knee-jerk reaction that I have, like, oh, he's gonna love this story, this joke, this whatever. And I was like, God damn it, yeah, no, I can't. He that's part of the void that he's left for me too.
Yeah. Same for me, man. Everything that you guys just mentioned, I think the number one, I was thinking last night after the Tate roundtable, because I asked them, what do you guys miss about, and I was going to ask you guys the same, like, what do you miss about performing with Ethan individual? But you all just kind of already answered that question. But when I started thinking about it myself, like, how would I answer that if someone were to ask me? And I think that aside from my childhood friends that I grew up with, that I know from elementary school or my family, Ethan was the one guy that I could be around and 100% feel like I could be myself. There's a lot of people where you got to watch what you say about this political situation, or you got to watch your cursing, or you got to watch what kind of subject matter you bring up, or we all have like a chess game going on with people that we know, whether we know them a lot or a little bit. And there was none of that with Ethan. I mean, I could 100%, even if I was going to say something shitty or say something nice or be an idiot or do something dumb, I never once had any kind of trepidation about doing it in front of him. And it was so.
No, he wasn't going to judge, man.
Yeah. And I think for me, that's what I miss. There's not a lot of people aside from close people in my life where I can just be myself.
Sure.
But
Yep.
Awesome words, guys. Man, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today. I hope it was good for you guys to see each other. I know it was, because
Absolutely, yeah. I feel like I'm gonna call all you guys one-on-one after this.
You know what? I know you guys have already done it, and I'm such a stick in the mud. But one of these times, yeah, we should do a reunion. We should just get a few people on stage from the old scene and just jam out a couple of tunes. I'm sure some bar would have us, and it would just be fun.
Yeah, man, definitely.
It has to happen someday. Some sort of a gathering of all the people who loved Ethan, and maybe even people who didn't know him, but all get together and just. I know Mike Mercier there, and you too, Mike, because you guys jammed together last October, right? You were down in Arizona.
Yeah.
And Kathleen was there, Ethan's mom, and she was
So
telling me that.
So was his uncle Kevin came out too.
And Kevin was there, yeah, and Matt Tenner, like a bunch of people. So that was probably kind of like a mini get together and celebrate Ethan a little bit. A lot of people who knew him and his mom.
For me, that was the closest. That was the closest to get to to even attend a kind of memorial thing. When I found out that Kathleen was going, I was like, oh, okay, cool, because we can have at least a little moment.
Yeah.
And it was, I mean, like Todd and those guys came out too, and Tony King was there, and some other guys that I didn't know really well, but I forget. There's two brothers that play, and Ethan was playing with them too. Whatever. Anyways, one of those guys had come out, and yeah, it was really cool. He was definitely in the room with us at Fivers that night.
Sure.
That is what's missing, right? That darn pandemic. I mean, can you imagine the gathering, right? I would show up in a heartbeat, if an official kind of Ethan memorial happened. But it's tough.
Yeah.
Well, perhaps someday, man, we can make an official one happen, and all of us who are out of town now can get over there and just see what happens.
Yeah, that'd be great, man. That would be great.
All right,
Thanks
guys.
again
Yeah.
for doing this, Chris. It's so nice to do this podcast.
Of course, man. Yep. It's a pleasure, and I've enjoyed every mile of it. Thank you guys for talking with me today. I miss all of you. I love all of you, and I look forward to seeing you again someday in person.
Good to see you guys.
Definitely,
Yeah,
man. Good to see you guys.
Take care.
I'm gonna hit you up, Chadwick, soon.
Please do.
Yeah.